So we can start. Let me share my screen. So before sharing my screen, I want to make this a little bit interactive. Okay, not many people are attending today, but still we'll just figure out what to do with it, right? The way, I think the last class in the Bhagavad Gita, we talked about the five Dvaita viewpoint, and now we're going to go into Bhagavad Gita itself in depth. What I mean is an overview from three bhashyas. Is that possible, right? Can we finish three bhashyas in 5 classes? It's almost impossible. So I want to ask you, each of you, how do you want to take this? In 5 classes, we have to give an essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita according to 3 Acharyas. How do you think we can do this? I want to hear from you first. Sudarshan, you want to start and say what your views are?
Krishnaji, if all of us who are attending understand the perspective of how everything is being said by the 3 Acharyas, then to give a gist of Bhagavad Gita might be possible. But if we are having a hard time understanding even one of the 3 matas, then it would be a very difficult concept, because there is going to be multiple interruptions when you're trying to say something, and because we don't know what you're trying to say. So that's my perspective on this whole thing. So I think you should probably do a small poll about like how comprehensive of an understanding that we all have as students here about the 3 matas before we try to attend this 5 class
summary, right?
Yeah.
See, the thing is, let me tell you, let me give you a little feedback from what I did in the Hindu University of America. See, this is all based on what I'm doing at the Hindu University of America, because there I have already completed 9 classes. 9 class means there's only one last class remaining there, which is the Samanvaya class, or the reconciliation between 3 systems. That is the only thing missing. But how did we deal in that class? See, maybe it will help for you to, let me do one thing. Let me take a few steps ahead. I'll show you a few slides and try to introduce the complexity of this whole problem. Then you will know, you will have time to think about it and let me know what you feel and how I changed in the Hindu University of America. I changed my whole strategy, how to teach them based on some real conditions. And let us see if those conditions apply to all of you. So I'm going to just show you the slides and see where we can go. Okay, that may be a better idea. So give me a few seconds. I'll open this. Just a second, I don't know why it is I need to get out and start again. Is this visible?
Yes.
Can you see?
Yes, yes.
Okay. See, the thing is, I'm just showing this as lecture 6. It's just like in a combination. I'm going to share between different slide decks I'm doing, because I have to tailor this according to what you people know and what you are used to, right? See, what I did was I told my friend, I'm going to do in 5 classes or 10 classes, the entire Bhagavad Gita according to 3 Acharyas. And I boasted almost to him, saying that, look, do you know that I'm doing something really powerful? As far as I know, no one has attempted to teach 3 schools of Vedanta and their views on the Gita in 10 classes. We're doing something unique. That's what I told with a lot of emotion. He asked me, do you know why no one has attempted this job of teaching 3 schools of Vedanta in about 10 classes or less? I said, not sure. Not sure. Then he said, very simple. Only fools try to do things that are impossible. So this is almost an impossible job. It's not possible to combine, summarize everything in 5 classes now, which are remaining. But what are we trying to do then? Why are we even attempting this? This was the job I started due to various reasons in the Hindu University of America. I personally think that it is all doable. Its only thing is it needs so much of precision and so much of summarization, so much of fundamental knowledge. I may not have it. So everybody takes it in a different way. I will guide this in a way which is suitable. Let us see whether what I do will be of value. So what have we finished? We finished the history of Vedanta, that we finished in class 1 itself. That is the Vidyasthanas, and how where does Gita fit in within the what is it, within the Mahabharata? 1 second, please. So we did give a conceptual view of the 3 systems of Vedanta, Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhwa, that we did in 3 classes. So let's now think differently. Is it fair to write 3 commentaries or even talk about 3 commentaries first? What is the right way to look at it? Can you give your thoughts on it? We only started talking about 3 views of Siddhanta, right? The 3 Vedanta. What would be an alternative way to do this kind of a work, to understand this subject? What are we even trying to do? What is the main subject of this whole course? Do you understand?
We are trying to understand what Krishna said, I think, from the perspective of each Acharya.
Correct. Then I will ask you a question. Who wrote the commentaries? Did Krishna write commentary to Shankaracharya's view or Ramanujacharya's view or Madhwacharya's view?
No, sir, it is
What did you say?
No, sir, it's actually the inferences by the 3 Acharyas. They wrote the commentary according to their interpretation of the
So
text.
the original Gita was Krishna's words as summarized by Sri Vedavyasa, right?
I think it's just Krishna's words, no summaries, Krishnaji.
Yeah, but the thing is, what they say is Krishna, whether he has spent 3-4 hours talking about Gita before the war or not, or whether he did the Upadesha like how Dakshinamurti did Upadesha through Mauna, or what exactly he said. Right now, what we know is the words of the Vyasa. Vyasa summarized it because that's how the Bhagavad Gita comes in the Mahabharata. But it definitely says Krishna Bhagavan Vacha, he says. But it is as heard by his divine vision and maybe even the reporting done by Sanjaya, right?
Yeah, correct.
So the main thing lies in the Mahabharata and the author of Mahabharata, and directly, totally believed to by as Lord Krishna's words only, who is accepted by as Jagat Guru by all the three Acharyas. Shankaracharya, Ramanuja.org, Madhwacharya. If you look at the introduction of Shankaracharya, Narayanaha Parovyaktah, he starts. He says that he is Ishvara, that is Krishna. Ramanujacharya gives details of Krishna even in glorious terms, and so does Madhwacharya. So we know that all these acharyas respected Krishna and respected Vedavyasa. So they started explaining everything. What they felt was the true message of Lord Krishna. So no acharya said that, oh, this is my mata, take it or leave it. They didn't say it. They said that Krishna's words are these, and this is how I interpret it. Modern people, Western authors, like, many people, I don't want to name them. There are a lot of people who say Krishna was just a small chieftain. That means a king of a small local area, like a, small, what do you call, municipality or something, a small district or something like that. And such a chieftain was given a glorious background and deified into a great universal Lord by Vedavyasa, by just painting a wonderful picture using wonderful Sanskrit, what Vedavyasa knew. Some people say that. So they don't believe that Krishna was a universal Jagat Guru or anything like that. That is definitely modern authors have looked at it in that way. What was my approach? When I studied under my guru, the first Acharya, Sampath, who is my grandfather's brother, I had an approach very clearly. I said, look, I don't like you people because you follow your elders. You wear the caste marks like a Nama or a Vibhuti or whatever. Your grandfather told to wear it, you do it. You just believe in them. I don't want to believe anything. I don't even want to believe that God exists. Can you teach me Bhagavad Gita? This is what the way I looked at it. I looked at it from an extremely open perspective. And my grandfather's brother was very kind. He said, definitely there is a lot of things in Bhagavad Gita, even for an atheist. You don't have to believe in anything. Just sincerely follow what Krishna said, what Arjuna asked, and try to figure out if there is any value to you. So we are not afraid of atheism. We are not afraid of Western authors thinking differently about Krishna. We don't care about it. We can go into the summary, understand the depth. We need sincerity and open-mindedness. That's it. All acharyas agree two things. This was quoted by Vedanta Deshika in his Bhashya. Remember how many Bhashyas were there before Ramanujacharya?
Only one son, one of Bhaskaraya, Yamunacharya Bhashya.
Anybody else?
There must have been hundreds.
How many accepted traditional commentaries on the Gita were there prior to Ramanujacharya's Gita Bhashya? This is the question.
At least
Shankara Bhashya, one. What else?
At least two, but Shankaracharya himself has said that many others may have written. So there are many other may not have come down to us.
Okay. Any idea of how many? No.
I read somewhere like from an English author, though, like somewhere around 225 or 227 or something like that, but I don't know the validity of it.
The 1,000 I read somewhere. I don't know. It's true.
No. Actually, I thought I asked a quiz long time back. I'm not sure whether I asked you the quiz or asked somebody else the quiz.
You asked us, but I forgot. We forgot. You asked us.
You was put in the quiz.
95 commentaries were there prior to Shankaracharya, to Ramanujacharya. So Ramanujacharya's number is the 96th accepted traditional Gita Bhashya. So obviously there was a lot of thought in this land about Bhagavad Gita. Prior to the Acharyas, if you think about it, the Bhagavad Gita, however you take it as when it happened, at least 700, 800 years prior to the Acharyas, right? Or maybe 300, 400, we don't know exactly. Some people give different numbers as well. This is the date of Mahabharata. But whatever may be the situation, a lot of thought, a lot of assessment, understanding, explanations have been given on the Bhagavad Gita. And what Vedanta has quoted is, there are two common things according to all Acharya. There is a Bhagavan, which is Paratattva. And that Bhagavan, you can say who that person is, we don't know. It doesn't matter who that person is, but there is a Bhagavan, which is the Paratattva, the highest entity to be known. And surrendering to the Bhagavan is the Paradharma, or safe, superior path. This is common not only to Shankara Bhashya, Ramanuja Bhashya, Madhwa Bhashya, but also to the other 95 Bhashyas prior to Ramanujacharya. So here there is a small difference of opinion, whether Acharyas consider this Prasthanatraya as three separate Prasthanas, as a single Prasthana, that is the Shankaracharya and Ramanujacharya disagree here. Shankaracharya says there are three different Prasthanas. One is Smriti Prasthana. In the Smriti Prasthanas, there are two. Brahma Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita are Smriti Prasthanas. Shruti Prasthana is the Upanishads, which is separate. So they talk, Advaitins talk about three separate Prasthanas, and Bhagavad Gita is Prasthanatraya, is one of the Prasthanatrayas. In the Ramanuja Sampradaya, they say Gita is one of the Prasthana. There is only one Prasthana. And the same Vedanta is being taught in the Gita, Upanishads and Brahma Sutras. They are all exactly identical. So we don't have separate views. We agree that all three are talking about the same Vedanta. Okay, we come to the introduction, very simple introduction. What happened at that time? So the Kuru is the ancestor of Shantanu, and from the Kuru dynasty was in Hastinapur, and Shantanu had first wife Ganga, second wife is Satyavati, and Satyavati's son is Vyasa, sage Vyasa. And Satyavati got Vyasa prior to her marriage, first that is from sage Parashara himself. And then she had two children, Chitrangada and Vichitravirya. Both died early. But since Vichitravirya was married to Ambika, Ambalika, and a third maid, right? Vichitravirya had passed away, or somewhere in that situation. Then through sage Vyasa, Ambika got Dhritarashtra, Ambalika got Pandu, and the third maid got Vidura. So, this is how the family tree is there. So Dhritarashtra's children are the Kauravas, true wife Gandhari. Pandu had a first wife Kunti and Madri's second wife. Kunti, prior to marriage, had through her divine powers, through Surya Bhagavan, Yudhishthir, Bhima and Arjuna. These three. And second wife, Madri, got Nakula and Sahadeva as children. So these are the Pancha Pandavas. Krishna is Kunti's nephew. So that means Kunti's brother is Vasudeva. Vasudeva's son is Vasudeva Krishna. And Karna was born to Kunti prior to, earlier itself through Surya Bhagavan, and she left the kid, and Karna joined the Kauravas. And Dhritarashtra's son also, Yuyutsu, from a maid, joined Pandavas, it seems. And Shakuni was idea giver to Kauravas, and he tried to help Kauravas win over Pandavas by cheating and other means. This is how this whole thing was set up at that time. Just to tell you about where things were, Kauravas were in Hastinapur, and Indraprastha, that was given to the Pandavas. After the death of Pandu, the Pandavas lived. Just a second. Pandavas lived with Dhritarashtra, and Dhritarashtra said, okay, you guys, anyway, you are my sort of brothers, half-brothers' children. So you go take care of the Indraprastha area, 5 places there. But what happened really, Kauravas wanted to kill Pandavas and get rid of them completely so that they can take over Indraprastha. And when after 13 years of Vanavasa and other things, which they got these people involved in a game of dice, finally they came out of the Vanavasa of 13 years and then wanted to get back to their 5 villages or whatever, their Indraprastha and other areas. But Duryodhana said, no negotiations, I'm not going to give you anything. Then the war was certain. Both sides were about to begin the war because Duryodhana said, okay, Krishna, give me your army and you can go fight with Arjuna as a lone fighter. So the war was in place. 18 Akshauhanis, something like 4 million people were assembled to fight. Arjuna said, Krishna, take my chariot in front of these people who are ready for the war. He had earlier decided that, yes, he should be my chief and other things, and he had prepared for war completely. Arjuna was ready to fight. But once he saw in front of him, his relatives, grandparents, uncles, and everybody, he realized that there was going to be a big bloodshed, slaughter of so many people. Is it right to do it? Will I enjoy after killing all these people? He was unable to fight. He fell at the feet of Krishna and said, I'm not going to fight. Why are we doing this? And he said, in fact, it is better to beg rather than to fight. So I surrender to you, O Krishna. Please help me. What should I do? So this is the beginning of the 2nd chapter, right? That's when Lord Krishna explains to Arjuna the idea of this whole philosophy. First he says, do not worry, you are killing nobody because Atma cannot be killed. Neither can you kill somebody nor get killed. Here the question comes, as how many Jivatmas are there? Is there one Atma or multiple Jivatmas? Shankaracharya prefers to say there is only one Atma. And because that one Atma is associated with different body, mind, intellect complexes, it appears as many. Actually, there is only one Atma. So Shankaracharya refers to Brahman only, not anything in between. But Ramanuja.org says, here there are multiple Jivatmas. And that is very clear by two some shlokas like Natvevaham Jatunasam, Tattvam Neme Janadipaha, Nachayvana Bhavishyamaha Sarvevayam Param, that is 212. So Ramanujacharya says there are multiple Jivatmas. And there is a lot of commonality though. Spirit is beyond thought. Because Jivatma and Paramatma, according to Ramanujacharya, are very similar concepts, very similar entities. They have ultimate similarity eventually. So the difference between Shankaracharya and Ramanujacharya does not, come out very powerfully here yet. Bodies are perishable, that is common. Spirit is imperishable, that is common. Spirit is beyond thought, unmanifest, does not undergo change. Oh, there is one thing called spirit, which is unmanifest. It is not visible. It does not undergo change. It is constant. So the sorrow, happiness, pain, pleasure are unavoidable here. One has to bear it because one has the body. And this body connect forces us to go through this. And death is unavoidable to anyone who is born. So whoever is born will have to die. And whoever dies has to come back to some other life. So Madhwacharya takes a slightly different view in some of these verses. We can go through and there are ways to think about it. Whether we want to separate at every chapter, or this is Madhwacharya's view, this is Shankaracharya's view, this is Ramanujacharya's view. If we do that, we lose the big tree. What is common? The common message of the Gita. Long time back, we also showed, I showed you a presentation where early, these three Acharyas, there's a lot of common view according to these three Acharyas. 60, 70, 80% of the Bhagavad Gita is common to these three Acharyas. So instead of going from verse to verse and trying to explain differences between these three Acharyas, you will not really understand many things. It will become very complicated. So I have chosen a different path, and I'm going to tell you about what path I have chosen in a few minutes. So let us not go through different Acharya's view. Common view will go through. Yes, Nitya. What I wanted to mention in this Madhwacharya view here, Madhwacharya takes, for a few minutes, he in the first few verses, he says Jivatma and other things. For Madhwacharya, the focus of second chapter is more on Paramatma than on Jivatma, but it could mean both in a way. Here and there, it means both. Rebirth is unavoidable, that is common. So we are coming back to the common views between Acharyas. Before birth and after death, we are unmanifest. That is, we cannot see who we are. We cannot perceive. Only because of the body, we perceive ourselves, perceive other people also. So spirit or Jivatma or Paramatma is not comprehended by any means of knowledge. You can read textbooks, you can that. What will you know? Some ideology, that's all. But you really perceive it. Direct realization. It's beyond the means of knowledge we know. That's why it's known as Aprameya. Then Krishna tells Arjuna, even considering Swadharma, going to war is better. Death in battle results in heaven. Victory leads to wealth and pleasure. So you have nothing to fear, no risk. Go ahead and fight. So based on Swadharma, Krishna asked Arjuna to fight. So he tells him, do not worry about gain or loss, just go fight. Then he gives the idea of Karma Yoga. What is Karma Yoga? We'll come to it. Spiritual progress has a single focus. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha purunandana. So Jiva is naturally blissful. So only focus on the spiritual progress. Bahushya kahyanantascha buddhayo abhyavasainam. The material people, materialistic people, they have multi-pronged approach in life. They go after this and that, and so today I want to do this, next day I want to do something else. They destroy the peace of mind by going after so many things which are unconquerable. This life is not sufficient to go after so many pursuits. So they are deluded. And in fact, they praise hedonism, that is pleasure here, all the time having pleasure here, and pleasure after life, after this death. So they constantly look for pleasure, which there is no end for it. So Krishna says to Arjuna, do karmas without expecting any result. Never be idle. Do your duties without attachment to fruits. Attachment is the one which gives you sorrow. So detachment is the best way. But do your duty. Equanimity is dealing with gain or loss with constant view, without being perturbed. Whatever may be the situation, you take it from there, keep your calm. So doing actions with equanimity is far superior to doing them with attachment. Doing with them with attachment makes that person so affected. They go through great sorrow, great joy sometimes, and come back again to sorrow. They are thrown between these two extremes, and that will destroy their mind, destroy their peace. So a person who is endowed with equanimity discards here and now the results of good and evil deeds. He will not bother about that. He will not be affected by ups and downs. Such an attitude while working basically burns up the past karmas. So the punya papas are all reduced. So the punya papas are the one which are binding this individual in this body. We don't know, when we just talk, eat, watch a movie, or whatever, when we're doing so many things, we just don't even realize we are bound. We are stuck in this body. Why are we stuck? The karmas are so many threads and ropes which are binding us to this body. By doing Nishkama karma, you will cut these ropes of bondage. So yoga is skillful action which will burn up the past karmas. Eventually, you end up in a place of no suffering. Only when your intellect is separated from this infatuation, attachment to so many things in life, you will feel sorry that you went after the wrong goals and petty goals, and you didn't realize the great thing which was inbuilt in you. So, Shruti Pratipannate yada stasyati nischala samadho achara buddhihi tada yogam avapsyasi. We are come to the second chapter here. In the beginning of Sthita Prajna, what this particular verse, Shruti Pratipanna, means is taught by great people. When your focus of the mind is firmly established on the self, which is right within you, then you will realize self. Shruti Pratipannate yadha stasyati nischala. When your mind becomes focused, because you're not attracted to any other pleasures or any other goals. You don't have 1,000 goals which are unconquerable, unachievable. You have one, and you know that is Atma Sakshatkara, realization. For that, all you need is focus your mind. Don't get distracted. Then you will realize, oh, there is something very different hiding in me. I didn't know that this is the nature of me. So you will realize, you will have the vision of your own self. When one gives up all desires and is satisfied by self, that is Atman only, then one is said to be of steady mind. Only these desires are taking you away from this Atma Jnana. Once the desires dissolve, your Atma Jnana becomes steady because there is nothing to distract you. Your focus is clear on Atma. That is the Sthita Prajna, that is one pointed mind, steady mind. One is to realize self, to win over senses, because senses are causing distractions by attachments to sense objects. The mind wants to think about something. The tongue says, oh, so you've been without coffee for so long, you need to get a cup of coffee. So the senses are constantly looking for sense objects. And if you want to win over your sensual attractions, you have to realize self. That is, you have to see this wonderful, powerful self sitting right here. Once you realize that wonderful self, you will be so attracted to that self, you will win over these mental, attachments to different sensual objects. But the problem is, to realize the self, you have to win over the senses. And to win over the senses, you have to realize the self. You have the problems. One is dependent on the other. They're interdependent. You can get neither one of them. This is a big problem. What do you do to solve this problem? Anybody? Can anybody answer what is the solution here?
Pray Bhagavan.
Huh?
Meditate on Bhagavan.
Meditate on Bhagavan. So do you remember the verse there? Bhagavad Gita verse? Do you remember what is the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter? Anybody?
It comes as Matparaha.
Correct. Tani sarvani samjamya yukta asita matparaha. So this is focus on me. Tani sarvani samjamya yukta asita matparaha. Matparaha may be interpreted slightly differently. It doesn't matter. What Krishna is telling Arjuna is focus your mind on me. And if you don't focus, if you focus the mind on me, that is Lord Krishna, he will help to calm your mind and to win over your distractions and focus and get self-realization. The other option can destroy you. That means you think that you yourself will be able to win over your sensual attractions. They are constantly waiting behind you. The moment you sleep, the moment you are incapable, the moment you're not steady, they will catch you. So slowly you will be ending up thinking of the objects and attractions to objects. Then you cannot control. You have to somehow get in touch with those wonderful, beautiful things. So you end up somehow trying to meet and touch, feel, and connect with the objects. That contact gives rise to desires. Desires give rise to anger when they are unfulfilled. Anger leads to total delusion, ignorance, not having clear judgment. Delusion will give you loss of memory. Buddhinashat pranashyati. Your intellect is destroyed and you are destroyed. You are totally lost. You don't know, you go back again to the millions and millions of attractions and you are caught in the misery of samsara. On the other hand, one who wins over the desires by the help of Paramatma Krishna, even though that person is in contact with the objects, attains tranquility because the senses gets restrained. He develops vairagya or dispassion towards the sense objects. Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha Inainam Prapya Vimukhyati Sitvasyam Antakalepi Brahma Nirvanam Richati. So this steady-mindedness, even if it comes in the last phase of your life, you will attain Brahma Nirvana. Again, here Brahma Nirvana is interpreted by different Acharyas differently. Madhwacharya interprets Brahma Nirvana as directly Krishna. That is, they will get realization of Krishna in some way. Brahman, Hari. Shankaracharya interprets Brahma Nirvana as Brahman itself, Nirguna Brahma. That means the study-mindedness, you will get dispassion, you will get disconnected from the samsara, and all your realization be only one. That is, you are Brahman. That is the realization you will get, because that is the only possible realization, because nothing else exists according to Shankaracharya. So the three Acharyas slightly take this Brahma Nirvana slightly differently. But there's a lot of commonality till now. Let me now paint a picture of Shankaracharya's view, Madhwacharya's view, and Ramanuja.org's view. How do they take the entire Bhagavad Gita into idea? What is the path of their sadhana? Shankaracharya for an Agnyani, that is a person who is not Agnyani, who has ignorance. For him, matter, Jivatma, Jada, all these things are different, right? There are different Devata lokas. After death, they have to go through so many problems. And Krishna as Saguna Brahman is reachable by Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Bhakti is possible for this Saguna Brahma. So one has to do Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and then reach Saguna Brahman. This is all common to Shankaracharya. He is the creator, he has mercy, he has karunya, dadami buddhi yogam tamyena mamupayantite. So the Saguna Brahman gives everything to this Jivatma. But Jivatma has to engage in Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, dependent on where his capabilities are. And then he has to go further and eventually achieve realization of Brahman, realization. So Bhakti is important. All these things are there for the Agnyani, where Agnyani has Veda Jnana. He has the knowledge of difference of everything. So he has to do karmas. He is bound by the Vaidika Shastras. He has to do Yajna this. Eventually get purity of mind. Maybe he will get ability to do Jnana Yoga. This is the general view of Shankaracharya for the Agnyani, which comes as common to all other Acharyas. But for a Gyani, there is a realization. That realization is Jnana, it comes to him when his mind becomes very pure. Jnana says, this whole question of Ishvara, question of you, your identification with the body, they're all unreal. This is all apparent reality. Vyavaharika Satya. Saguna Brahman is Vyavaharika Satya. And you as an individual, you doing Karma Yoga, you doing so many things, they're all Vyavaharika Satyas. All this will be burnt away by the brilliant light of knowledge. And what you see is there is nothing which exists other than you. And that you is Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta, Nirvikara, Nirakara, Nirguna, Brahman. That's what remains, and there's nothing else. So this is for a Gyani. So for Gyani, even Jivatma goes away and there is only one Atma. What he calls as Jivatma, it is body, mind, intellect, mainly some reflection inside it, but that doesn't exist anymore. So this is the essence for the Shankaracharya has two different views, one for Gyani, one for Agnyani. Now, Ramanujacharya's view, there is the Jivatmas are all distinct. Jivatmas are all distinct. Matter is distinct. We are stuck in matter due to our Purva Karmas. To get released from bondage, we have to do Nishkama Karma, Karma Yoga with dedication to Paramatma. So slowly our Ajnana will be released, Ajnana will be removed, and a person will become more pure. And that such a purity gives his a capacity for him to do Jnana Yoga. That Jnana Yoga means his mind is not disturbed anymore. He can focus on self. So he will constantly look at understanding what the self is. And the self is different from Jivatma. I'm sorry, different from matter or Prakriti. Eventually he realizes that, oh my God, there is a powerful Brahman who created everything. There is only one Brahman. And who is that Brahman? Who seems to be similar in some ways to Jivatma, but is extremely dissimilar because he is the creator, protector, and he is the power behind everything only because of his karuna, karunya, or mercy and support and controllership. Everything is working. Slowly he will realize that Ishvara, Brahman is separate. And that person is reachable only after self-realization. Once you know who you are, clearly, you understand the Jivatma Swarupa clearly, realize it, then you will be able to do bhakti or devotion to that Paramatma, who is not Nirguna, but he is Saguna only. There is no Nirguna Brahman in Ramanujacharya philosophy. So the priority is bhakti. Because suddenly he realizes, even though I thought that Jivatma is in such a high state of purity and peace and ananda, the very power behind Jivatma is this wonderful divine power that is Parabrahman. And so I cannot help but go after and try to understand the beauty and power and nature of this Parabrahman. So that this Jivatma cannot stop from going after this Paramatma. So this Jivatma seeks this Paramatma. So there is bhakti which is involved. Abheda is not important in Ramanujacharya's view and never exposed. But there is Abheda, but we'll come to that later. Jivatma cannot be there without Paramatma. So Jivatma is always together with Paramatma. So the creator is real, but Jivatma is also real. Everything is yatha, sarvam jnanam yatha vastu. That means all jnana is as it is. You experience something, even dream is a real experience. Because a person goes through a real understanding of, oh, I had this experience while I was sleeping. There, once bhakti picks up, he gets parabhakti, parajnana, paramabhakti. Higher level of bhakti he gets, beyond realization of self. And after that point, he gets moksha, which is eternal service to the Sriman Narayana and his associates there. But the Brahma Sutrakara, in the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, Ramanuja says, Avibhagena Drishtatvat, Jagat, this Jivatma is inseparable from the Paramatma. He realizes as Aham Brahmasmi, that is, I am Brahman, in a way. Ahame Vedagam Sarvam, I have become everything. But the only thing is, Ramanujacharya and the Brahma Sutra stop short and say he cannot become completely Brahman because he does not have capacity to control the world. Jagat Vyapara Varjam. That means he doesn't have he is not the boss of the universe. He can feel the Aham Brahmasmi, that I myself is Brahman. He can feel it, but he cannot feel and control the universe. So there are some restrictions, and in that way, he is not one with Brahman in a way, but in other ways, he is one with Brahman. So he goes very close to Abheda also in some ways. So this is the view of Ramanujacharya. Madhwacharya, on the other hand, is very similar. Bheda is fundamental. There is no becoming of one or even close to that. All the devatas are of different levels. Hari is the highest devata. Brahma, Rudra, Indra, Varuna, Marut, all these other devatas, lower forms. They can only pray. They can't even know that Hari properly. Only Lakshmi can know Hari very well. And Lakshmi is the closest, but still she is one step below. So there is Devata Taratamya. So the moksha is in the Taratamya only. You can get away from the material bondage, but you have to be at constant service to the divine person. And all the devatas are superior to you. You will never be able to get a full view of that Parabrahman. Very limited view. In fact, the devatas will have a higher view or a better knowledge of that Hari. So Abheda is completely denied. And in moksha, they will be separate. But bhakti is very important. So what is common with Ramanujacharya philosophy? Karma, Jnana, Bhakti, all these things are common. Only thing is there, the development of Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga are not discriminated in a very powerful way. Ramanujacharya makes a very clear distinction of what is karma, what is jnana, what is bhakti, and how the transition occurs from karma, jnana to bhakti and Paramatma Sakshatkara. All these things are very clear in the Ramanujacharya philosophy. Madhwacharya philosophy also talks about it, but Madhwacharya's philosophy does not recognize the realization of Jivatma is necessary. Is there something which helps you realize Jivatma? He doesn't talk too much. He says that the most important thing is to realize Parabrahman, Sri Hari, Hari only. Then the rest is not important. So that is the way Madhwacharya takes it. In summary, what they're talking about is Ramanujacharya says you cannot avoid first the Jivatma Sakshatkara. You have to know yourself. Even Vivekananda in one place says in a wonderful sentence, you cannot know Paramatma without knowing yourself properly. But I'm not comparing Vivekananda to Ramanujacharya, but the thing is there's a similar thought there. Ramanujacharya says that Adhyatma Yoga Digamena Devam Matva Harsha Shokav Jahati. This is Kathopanishad. In that, Ramanujacharya makes it clear that you first have to understand as Jivatma, who you are. Only then you will figure out how far this Paramatma is, how wonderful and divine and distinct Paramatma is. That is Ramanujacharya's view. So the 18 chapters are separated in different ways for Ramanujacharya. For Shankaracharya, there is this bondage and illusion, Maya and everything. And when that goes away through Jnana, there is only Paramatma or Brahman only. So this is the idea between Shankaracharya and Ramanujacharya. But the 18 chapters are understood in a very, very different way. We will have to go through each chapter to figure out how to go there. Now, I'll give you the structure of the Gita. The structure of the Gita is, Shankaracharya says, second chapter gives the summary of the entire Gita. So Karma Yoga is Nishkama Karma, that is okay. Brahma Nirvana is the final, that is Sthita Prajna, that is will directly give realization of Brahman. The final state is Nirguna Brahman. The current state is bondage. So karma leads to bhakti. Bhakti is involved inside the Karma Yoga. That will lead to Jnana, and Jnana lead to moksha. Moksha is realization that only Brahman exists and he himself is the Brahman. Bhakti is included in the karma. So for Madhwacharya, second chapter is a summary of the Gita. Karma Yoga, Nishkama Karma is important. Sthita Prajna is realization of Krishna, not Jivatma for Madhwacharya. Directly realize Krishna. That is the ultimate. Nishkama Karma leads to purity, and Jnana means true knowledge of Krishna here. So his Jnana Yoga does not refer to the Jivatma Sakshatkara at all for Madhwacharya. This is the structure of Gita. So what we will do is we will take a break. Hold on a second. What is the time now? It's 9:03. It's about time. I don't want to push too much in this class because I want to break this class into lecture 6. We may have to do lecture 11 also. We may have one more lecture. But I just wanted to give you a summary of why these three acharyas are different, what their approaches are, in an overview, just taking the first 2 chapters now. But if we go further, we will try to find out how to do are we going to go each acharya and their explanations of chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, how do we have to go further? That I will talk to you in the next class, because I have to give you an introduction of what is common among all these acharyas? Again, I'll ask you one question before we leave. What is common among all the acharyas about Bhagavad Gita? Do you remember?
Brahman is eternal. Brahman is the Brahman is the we need to know Brahman.
That's one thing. It's yeah, there's only one point. What else is second, third, fourth? Most important, common ones.
Jiva should reach Parabrahma.
What?
Jivatma should reach Parabrahma.
So Parabrahma is the goal, right? Okay, that is one thing. What else is common between all acharyas? I just talked about it in the beginning of this lecture.
We are all bound.
What?
We are all bound.
Okay.
So that's common amongst all acharyas. What happens after that is a different issue.
That's true, but not complete. Not complete. I'm looking for two main points which are common, and I even mentioned at the very beginning of this lecture. Two.
Paramasatya, sir.
What is it?
Parasatya
Parasatya what?
is the ultimate truth.
Is what?
Parat Brahman.
Okay, then what else is common between the three acharyas?
Dehi is
Huh?
Nitya. Dehi is Nitya. Deha is Anitya.
Okay, that is common. That is common to all acharyas. But we are talking about the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, the whole of Bhagavad Gita, if you are to put it in a couple of points. How do you, and which are common?
Karma, Jnana and Bhakti are required. Karma, Jnana and Bhakti.
Well, it may be true, but that is not the thing I'm looking for. I'm looking for two fundamental points common to all acharyas about the entire Bhagavad Gita.
Reaching
The Dharma.
Paramatma.
What? I didn't hear you.
Narayana is the Supreme Brahman.
That's one. What else is important?
The Jiva's Dharma is to reach the Narayana, Sriman Narayana. That is the
Well,
Bhagavan.
that is natural. Fine. There's something else very important.
That is the
Reaching
Purushartham, the
Paragati.
ultimate Purushartham.
What?
The ultimate Purushartham.
Ultimate Purushartha is Bhagavan. That is what a couple of people are saying in different ways. Ultimate Purushartha is Bhagavan. That is common in the Bhagavad Gita according to all acharyas.
Is it surrender?
Surrender is Paradharma. Main dharma in the Bhagavad Gita is surrender. That is according to all acharyas, Shankaracharya including. That is why the common, all three acharyas focus on the last 1866, Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Praja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Ishyami Ma Shuchaha. So, the question, even though acharyas say that second chapter has the essence of everything in the Bhagavad Gita, the concept of surrender is not very well explained in the second chapter, right? It appears. But two of the acharyas, Madhwacharya and Shankaracharya and Madhwacharya argue that word matparaha means surrender itself. Or complete bhakti yoga, everything, jnana yoga, everything is included in that matparaha. So that is their view. So each acharya definitely, if we go chapter by chapter and analyze their different views, every verse, every key verse has a problem. Na asato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sataha ubayorapi drishtvantaha anayostatvadarshibhihi, second chapter, 16 I think. Very difficult. Each acharya takes it differently. Fifth chapter. Nadatte kasyachit papam najaiva sukritam vipuho ajnane navratam jnanam tena mushyanti jantavaha. This is interpreted by three acharyas separately. So if we go chapter by chapter, we will get confused. It is like a spaghetti code. In software, they say if you write bad software computer programs, they tell you that you are writing spaghetti code. So this is confusing. You will not be able to understand these three systems properly if we go this way. Then what is a different way of understanding Bhagavad Gita? That we will talk next time. If you have any questions till now on this class, please ask.
Sir, actually, hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello. Sir, actually, I had a doubt. Actually, in the third chapter, Krishna is telling about the yajnas, he's telling like Annarao Bhavana, that yajna concept is teaching. But when I was reading the second chapter, there Krishna is saying that to Arjuna, see, please don't avoid doing yajna because you get temporary relief, you get, he says.
No.
That's what interpretation I must have done wrong.
The second chapter, Bhoga Ishvasya Prasaktanam Taya Apahata Chetasam, there, those yajnas are Swarga Kama and other things. They are Kamya Karmas. The yajnas said in the third chapter are not Kamya Karmas. They are bound. You see, the very fact that you are breathing today is because of the Vayu Bhagavan is helping you. Right?
Yes.
You are not breathing by yourself. The Vayu Bhagavan is helping you. Similarly, your Indriyas are working. The Indra, God is trying to help you through your Indriyas. So you are bound and you are being supported by Devatas. And to give thanks to these Devatas, you have to do some yajnas. So that is different from the yajnas indicated in the second chapters. Bhoga Ishwarya Prasaktanam Taya Apaharta Chetasam Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Samadhona Vidhiyate. They are like Swarga Kama, Kamya Karmas, Putra Kama, or Pashu Kama, or Dhana Kama, some kind of desires of wealth, pleasures, and or superior pleasures in the next Janma, like Indraloka or whatever it is. These are very different from the Karma Yoga yajnas said in the third chapter.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, another doubt is there. When in the third chapter, when Lord Krishna is saying to Arjuna, see, you should do your duties, don't see others' duties. And then Arjuna says that when a soul is good, when he comes down, why he is getting attached to this material bondage. There, Ramanuja.org is making a differences between Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga. But when I read other authors like the Swami Mukunda, he is not telling anything like differences between Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Just he is giving the context.
See, the thing is, this is a very powerful question. The difference between Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga have been understood by these Acharyas in very, 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 very different ways. Okay? It is very complex to explain in 2 minutes. What we will do is when we go further, I will explain to you how to understand. We have to understand one system very clearly. Okay? And for that, I will talk to you next week. Next week, we will give you as to how to really understand Bhagavad Gita in a quick way, right? What is common among all these? See, whatever Shankaracharya said, it was a few thousand years ago, couple of thousand years ago, something, right? Yes. Whatever Ramanuja.org said was 1,000 years ago. Whatever Madhwacharya said was 700 years ago. Today, think clearly as what is Vedanta. These Acharyas of today's Mata, Shankara Matas, Madhwa Matas, and Ramanuja Matas, what are they telling you? You have to understand today what is Vedanta. What is the status of Vedanta today? That we will talk next time. Okay? Now I have to leave because it's too late now because I have to get to another meeting.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Asmat Gurubhyo Mahasmat Paramagurubhyo Mahasmat Sarvagurubhyo Mahashri Krishna Prabhamane Mahashri Lakshmi Nrsimha Prabhamane Mahashri Lakshmi Ayodhana Prabhamane Mahasarvam Shri Krishna Prabhamane. We'll leave today and we'll continue next time.
Thanks, Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Write down your questions. If you have, send it on the Bhagavad Gita channel. I'll look at it. Okay, well, you can definitely write your when you have it in your mind, you can write down your questions and put it on the channel. Okay.
Sir, that
you.
one can you
Thank you,
share, sir? That Pandu tree just now you showed, no, sir. That Mahabharat family tree you just showed, no, sir. Picture. Kuru flan
Why
picture.
don't I send that as a PowerPoint?